Спасибо. Уважаемые дамы и господа,
Ladies and gentlemen, APEC CEO Summit is traditionally considered to be one of the most important fora
экономическим проблемам.
to discuss economic issues. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on the topic of special relevance
О развитии сотрудничества России
talk about the development of cooperation between Russia and Asia-Pacific region.
океанским веком. Россия как часть АТР использовать те конкурентные преимущества,
We see great competitive advantages that this rapidly growing center of economic technology and innovation offers. The development of such regions of Russia as Siberia, Far East, opens up unique opportunities for the countries of this vast region. Opportunity to efficiently use new opportunities and further strengthen its potential for Russia. Cooperation with Asia-Pacific is a strategic priority, and it is very important that for our relations with the overwhelming development, relations of the countries of the region characterized by general positive, constructive spirit, we value the determination, and we are determined to further bring forward multifaceted bilateral and multilateral cooperation. We think that the experience of many of the Asia-Pacific countries serves as a good example in terms of building competitiveness. They are at the forefront when it comes to innovation, finance, and investment, and even despite negative financial trends of the past few years have been showing good dynamics with an insignificant drop in growth rates. That said, in order not to be caught in the retracted recession, the countries of the region will need to do important structural reform. It is not by chance that our Chinese friends outlined structural reform as one of priorities for its APEC presidency. Russia is no exception. For us, structural economic reform is a top priority. Today, trade with Asia-Pacific accounts for over 1/4 of all trade volume of Russia and its foreign partners, and we're planning to grow this share to 40%. And we're making specific steps to expand the geography of our exports to increase our share of manufactured and high-tech goods in the trade volume. In the future, we are planning to create a network of accelerated growth rate strategies with preferential tax treatment and facilitated administrative procedures. Companies that will be located there will be mostly producing manufactured goods that will mostly be sold in the Asia-Pacific region. I would like to use the occasion to invite you, ladies and gentlemen, to use opportunities that are opening up and locate your production in the Far East of Russia. Let me reiterate, we'll do our utmost to create best conducive environment for your work. As compared with 2009, the volume of direct investment from Asia-Pacific to Russia doubled, amounting at the moment almost $9 billion. The volume of Russia investments in Asia-Pacific region is smaller, a little under $1 billion as a result of past year, but we're planning to deal with this disbalance. We hope that the creation of the National Coordinating Center to develop economic cooperation with Asia-Pacific countries will allow to launch new projects, which Russia will be party. For us, one of the key partners in the region is China. As part of cooperation with China, we're planning to more actively use national currencies for bilateral settlement. First, transactions with settlement is done in rubles and RMB are taking place as we speak. And we're planning to grow our cooperation in energy. Our experts are currently looking at the opportunities. Russian-Chinese Intergovernmental Commission on Investment Cooperation is operational. Its priority task is implementing investment projects not in energy sector, and this project should be implemented on the principles of mutually beneficial cooperation. Similar format to develop dialogue and practical interaction in investment will be launched with other partners. Economic integration is moving to the forefront of the APEC agenda. We believe that the most important achievement of the Chinese presidency is approving specific steps to create future free trade area in Asia-Pacific. This format should take into account interests of all the stakeholders, in businessmen in the first place, and take into account peculiarities of our economies, the difference in the development levels. Future Asia-Pacific free trade area will have to interact with other major regional integrational unions. In that respect, let me remind you that as of January 1st, 2015, Eurasian Economic Union will become operational. It consists of Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Armenia. That's in the process of accession at the moment. We're seeing a new high-capacity regional market emerging based on WTO rules with unified rules, free from barriers impeding free flow of capital, goods, or labor. It opens up great opportunities for cooperation, for technological exchange and investment. One of the strategic goals of the Union is to participate very actively in the integration processes that are underway in the Asia-Pacific region, and I'm sure many of our Asia-Pacific colleagues will be interested in such cooperation. The Union is already negotiating free trade area with Vietnam. We are open for such specific dialogue with other economies of the region. Ladies and gentlemen, the CEO summit brought together captains of industries from the region. Some already have experience working in Russia. Others are just looking into opportunities. Therefore, let me touch upon subjects that are traditionally of concern for investors. Long-term priorities for a country's development remains unchanged. Macroeconomic situation in Russia remains stable. It is one of our big achievements, something to value and treasure. We'll be pursuing balanced and very cautious fiscal policy. Public debt will not be growing. We're planning to limit it to a safe level where we can control it under 15% of GDP, that is. We know that today our national currency is experiencing serious fluctuation. That said, financial authorities are taking the necessary step. CBR continues targeting inflation, will continue doing so in the future. Central Bank of Russia is clearing up balances in the banking sector. It is a long due step, and I believe investors understand that steps to rehabilitate a financial system are needed. What's important is that our fundamentals in terms of golden currency reserves and balance of payments remain at good level. That allows us to control the situation without taking any extraordinary emergency steps. Let me reiterate, we are not planning to introduce any restrictions on the capital flow. We're also giving a lot of attention to creating conducive business environment, introducing best practices of working with investors, both at the regional municipal level. Most importantly, investors and businessmen themselves, including foreign ones, are seeing positive changes. International experts also give a positive assessment to our efforts. As compared to 2010, our country improved its position in doing business, and we in order to attract investors, to reduce risks, to co-finance projects, we are planning to use existing development institutes and some of the reserves that we have accumulated in sovereign funds, for instance, National Prosperity Fund. We are also expanding access to lending, to loans. We are finalizing project finance mechanism that will be used to finance long-term projects next year. Industry Development Fund will be introduced that will be providing initial financing for enterprise. When it comes to infrastructure, we're planning to do serious investment in modernizing Baikal-Amur Highway and Trans-Siberian Railroad. It will be the foundation of intercontinental bridge from Asia to Europe. At the same time, we are modernizing ports in the Far East. We will be introducing global positioning system technologies, GLOBALS technologies, to better manage rail traffic. We are building additional dry ports, which are transportation hubs. All of that will facilitate transit transportation. In addition to that, we're developing infrastructure of the Arctic sea route. We're turning it into a modern, safe, and competitive transportation corridor. Cargo directed to Asia-Pacific region will be transported through this corridor. We are also suggesting to partners to cooperate in building energy and telecom infrastructure. These areas of work remain priorities for the entire Asia-Pacific region, and if we join efforts, I'm sure we'll find many synergies. By the way, when it comes to sensitive areas such as energy, Russia's been showing great degree of openness to investments. Let me remind you that about Sakhalin oil and gas projects, the share of our Japanese partners in Sakhalin-1 amounts to over 30%, in Sakhalin-2 over 22%. We also signed contracts with our Chinese friends to build infrastructure for the supply of natural gas. We're also considering opportunities for our partners to enter into large extraction projects. The geographic position of Russia in the Eurasian space puts it in a unique position of a link between Western and Eastern civilizations. We're planning and we're determined to become a more prominent member of the Asia-Pacific region. We're building cooperation with all the Asia-Pacific countries. We are prepared to actively participate in the creation of free trade system and economic investment cooperation. We're open for dialogue, discussions, for practical cooperation, to implementation of joint programs in Asia-Pacific, and we welcome all the businessmen from the region. We want you to come and succeed. Opportunities are endless. In conclusion, allow me to invite you to the next St. Petersburg Economic Forum. Next year, it will be taking place in June 18 to 20 in St. Petersburg, and I hope we will continue substantial dialogue and agree on new, interesting, large-scale projects. With that, I thank you for your attention.
Уважаемые участники, вы услышали из первых уст политику России.
Dear participants, now that you've heard first-hand information about Russia's policy in Asia-Pacific region, about new opportunities that will be opening up in the near future, you will have a chance to ask some questions. We have 7 minutes for the Q&A session. Please don't forget to introduce yourselves.
Mr. President, Timothy Ong from Brunei. Mr. President, you mentioned the creation of the Eurasian Economic Union, which will come into effect on the 1st of January. Could you tell us more about the specific opportunities for APEC and the member economies of APEC? Thank you.
Мы много раз об этом говорили, это один из наших.
We have spoken about it on many occasions. It is one of our priority integration projects in the post-Soviet space. Like I said, it consists of Russia, Belarus, and Kazakhstan. We are at the final stage of accession for Armenia. The accession agreement has been signed. The figures I'm about to share with you will probably not be as impressive for China as they for us, but we're talking about a market with a capacity of 107 million people. Russia and Kazakhstan have huge raw material reserves, offer great transportation infrastructure. If we look at Belarus, that offers you a favorable, geographically close to the European Union position. The potential is great, but most importantly, the principles of work of this union are the basic requirements of the WTO, and fully coherent with WTO requirements. Like I said in my statement, we are now at the next stage of integration, interaction. We're lifting altogether customs barriers between Union member states, offering free flow of capital, services, labor force. We're bringing in compliance our tax legislation, and we'll be jointly regulating financial markets. All of that creates great prerequisites for safe and confident work on this very large market, where investors can make sound forecasts, make good profit, feel protected. And let me repeat that our fundamental principles are in full compliance with those of the WTO, and I sincerely hope that our partners all over the world, including Asia-Pacific, will very soon feel real benefits.
I come from China, TCL. I'm Li Zhongshen. Here, I would like to ask President a question about the Russia investments, the outside outbound investments, about the legal framework for the overseas investment for Russia. We have a lot of business in Russia. We would like to establish a plant or a joint venture in Russia, but after our investigation, we found out that the Russia's legal framework, the rules and regulations, is not so clear for us, for the overseas investors. And for the government, also has a lot of discretion over the overseas investment, overseas investors. Maybe you will improve your legal framework in the future.
Я уже говорил в своем выступлении.
Like I said in my statement, then let me repeat. On the one hand, it is our top priority, creating conducive business environment and favorable environment for investment in Russia. We have a program of action that was not just invented by bureaucrats like a tabletop exercise. It is a result of our cooperation with business community and feedback we've been getting from them. We have a roadmap to lift administrative barriers. And like I said, the situation is changing, and for the better. We have made a lot of progress, advanced in the doing business rating. But it's not about ratings, really. It's about practical life. It's about real experience. We are facilitating registration procedures for companies, so facilitating grid connection or infrastructure connection for facilities. We are reducing pressure emanating from law enforcement agencies. These are topics that are constantly in the focal point of our attention. We constantly analyze market trends. We get feedback from the business community, and we have every reason to believe that we are moving in the right direction. Well, not everything has been done yet. There are some pending issues, but we know what to do and how to do. So we're talking about fundamental things I mentioned already. Fiscal policy. Preserving sound macroeconomic indicators or principles, macroeconomic principles. About support of exports. We're just making first steps along the way, but we know the direction. So if you want to come and work in Russia, you will get a chance to be present not only on the Russian market, but to reach out to third countries' markets through Russia. So it's a broad range of issues, and we're constantly monitoring the situation. We are in touch with the business community and will continue improving all the relevant mechanisms.
Your Honorable President Putin, I come from the Chamber of Commerce in Beijing. We have about over 200 enterprises in our Chamber of Commerce who are engaged in the mining and oil and gas business. In October, with the visit from the high-level government, we also went to Russia. We will invest in Russia. We will establish our laboratories, including pumps in Russia. But I have a question. The president also said RMB can be exchangeable with Russia, but for the liquidity, I went to Russia last year, but the liquidity is not so great. Maybe in the future, can we settle the RMB with the Russia currency?
Вы затронули очень важный вопрос.
The question you're asking is very important. It has to do both with global energy and global finance. I believe that settlement in national currencies between such partners as Russia and China is a very promising area of work, which will help find new opportunities in bilateral trade and significantly impact global finance and energy markets. One of the projects we're considering at the moment is Chinese partners participating in one of our large extraction and production companies, and settlements will be done in RMB. Of course, we need to understand how we're going to be using the resources that Russian partners will get. I'm referring to RMB, in which the payment will be made, but I think Chinese economy generates enough goods that are in great demand on the Russian markets, so settlement in RMB is not impossible. Russian ruble also offers its advantages, as it's a freely convertible currency. Like I said, we're not planning to introduce any restrictions on capital flows. Due to speculations, we are seeing fluctuations of our exchange rate, but I'm sure they will stop in the near future due to efforts taken by the Central Bank of Russia. By the way, the situation on the currency, foreign exchange market of Russia we're witnessing at the moment are not linked to economic fundamentals by no means. The situation will balance out, and it's just short-term fluctuations. But Russian ruble RMB settlements offer great prospects. Should we shift to national currency settlements, that would mean it will reduce influence of dollar and global energy, and this That wouldn't be a bad thing for the economy or finance or energy market or even dollar itself. Because the more settlement opportunities there are, the more stable global finance and global energy sectors will be. At the end of the day, it might have positive impact on the dollar itself as a global reserve currency. And of course, dollar will also be used as one of the strong foreign exchange currencies alongside with ruble and RMB. And as to bilateral currency settlement, well, it is a question of the near future, I believe. I'm ready to take 3 more questions from sectors 1, 2, and 3. Any person, really.
Уважаемый Владимир Владимирович, уважаемый господин Дерипаска,
Mr. President, Mr. Deripaska, my name is Yana. I represent Business Park Reut from Moscow. I've been working in Moscow and Russia for over 15 years. So my question is, how can we use success stories and good experience of Chinese colleagues to attract new investors to Russia? Well, if you continue coming to such fora and telling about your positive experience, I'm sure you would encourage more Chinese companies to come and work in Russia. What you just said is in itself a wonderful advertisement, and I would be happy to hug and kiss you for that. Thank you. Follow up. At the moment, over 370 companies from 13 countries of the world work in our business park, and we'd be happy to invite you to visit our business park. I will be happy to visit you. Thank you. Somewhere, please give the mic to someone in the front part of the audience.
尊敬的普京总统，我是来自越信集团。
I come from Yixin Group. I come from the Chamber of Commerce in China. I have 2 questions for President. The first one is investment in Russia. The Chinese entrepreneurs, the Chinese enterprises are very concerned. Apart from the legal issues, we also have other issues. For example, public security issues. This is the first question. The second one is Russia is a country with a lot of timber production. We have a lot of timber production in Russia. And how can the Chinese enterprises enter into the timber industry in Russia? Thank you.
Первое, что касается безопасности.
First, as regards security, petty crime, I can assure you that it is not more dangerous to be in the streets of Russian cities than in the streets of Chinese, American, European cities. Where are we, 10? By the way, today is the professional holiday of law enforcement officers of Russia, so let us congratulate them. As they know that we think about them here at the APEC summit, I'm sure that will give them an extra impetus to do an even better job. As regards wood or lumber, I understand the subtext of your question, but I'm sure you'll understand when I say that any country, and Russia is no exception in that respect, would like to see any raw material produced in its territory to be processed domestically, would like to see its own economy generating more added value, like to see additional jobs created domestically, and would like to see more proceeds for budgets at all level. We have been experiencing problems, but we still have been changing the orientation. And now we're shifting towards more processing, domestic processing, despite the fact that many of our partners would rather buy round wood from us. Taking about how we could account for interest of foreign partners, including Chinese friends, the answer is simple. Do come to Russia, invest in wood processing industries. And a question from that sector, please. A lady.
Да-да, завершающий.
Honorable President Putin, my name is Diane Wang. I'm the founder and CEO of DHgate in China. We are doing the B2B cross-border e-commerce, helping the SME in the world to do the global trade through e-commerce. So we care about the regional cooperation. So my question is, we all know that regional cooperation has been always the centerpiece of APEC activities. So how do you evaluate the existing status of it and the prospects of its future development? Thank you.
Вы имеете в виду электронные торговли или...
You mean e-commerce? Or are you asking about e-commerce or our interaction with China? Could you repeat, please?
Because we are helping the SMEs, so we care about if during the APEC, if we have more and more this kind of regional cooperation that can, through, for example, e-commerce, to enable SMEs to access global market, to access the, the internet finance, etc.
Okay.
Thank you.
Да-да. Да-да, я понимаю.
Yes, I understand that. Well, first, as regards regional interaction, I believe it is one of our top priorities. As regards cooperation between Russian regions and regions of China, individual regions, we have seen good progress. I don't want to give specific statistics of growth of trade volume at the regional level, but trust me, they are impressive. And we're seeing growth from day to day, from year to year. We have established direct, very positive relations between heads of individual Russian regions and regions of China. And that helps to bring closer business circles. E-commerce, in which you work, is a very important segment of global trade, and it is instrumental for development of SMEs. That said, we believe that in Russia, for instance, taxation for SMEs should not be any dramatically different from tax levels in other countries. I understand what you're hinting at. At the moment, debate is underway about taxation levels in Russia for e-commerce. The volume of e-commerce in Russia is very large and it's constantly growing, and the state needs to protect its interests. And fiscal policy should correlate with the requirements of this business and the level of development. There is one issue we need to resolve within the customs union, the Eurasian Economic Union that will become effective as of January 1st next year. We need to agree on taxation level for e-commerce should be synchronized. It is unacceptable to have different taxes in Russia, Belarus, and Kazakhstan, because otherwise e-commerce would migrate to the country where the taxes will be lowest. But we'll try to be very cautious not to endanger businesses, to make any blows, but at the same time take into account the interests of the state. We'll timely inform the business community, will start an open, free debate at the level of parliaments of Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan. I need to vacate the room for colleagues who are waiting. I would be happy to stay and talk and discuss very many questions with you. I'm sure you have many questions to ask, and with that I thank you for being interested in talking to me as representative of the Russian Federation. You're all welcome to come and visit us in Russia. Thank you and all the best.